Welcome, everyone. Today on Pulling Threads, we welcome Collin Patrick. He is a neuroscience junkie like myself, I think, right, Collin?
Indeed.
And he is the author of a book coming out called Reprogramming Your Brain for Happiness: How to Escape Survival Mode and Train Your Mind for Peace, Purpose, and Growth. Collin is based in Southern California, one of my favorite places. He's the voice behind a fast-growing community at Collin Patrick Health, where he posts content every day on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and Threads. So we're going to get into all of this, but just briefly, Collin went through a very big life journey, I'll call it, after a near fatal motorcycle accident. And then during that same stretch, his marriage ended and he raised his young daughter. So we're going to talk about grief, addiction, recovery, and kind of like a slow build of getting your life back. So welcome to Pulling Threads, Collin.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
You are our first male guest
Oh,
on
wow.
the show. I know. It's a big deal. My assistant was like, "We have a man." And I was like, "Oh my God." However, I did recently, 2 months ago, I started a series for men. So I guess this is really timely. I realized that so many people, women were looking for resources for their husbands or their boyfriends, but also men going through divorce started reaching out and saying, "Why aren't you making any content for us?" So this is timely and good. I love getting all perspectives of everything going on in mental health, neuroscience, and I like, your story is full of triumph over tragedy. And so I'm excited to hear how you got where you are and how you're helping people now.
Sure.
So if you wouldn't mind, just share with us what happened on the day of your accident and like where you were coming from in that point in your life. What did life look like then?
Sure. So I would say leading up to the accident, life was good. It felt mundane a bit, but some people enjoy that part of life where they have a routine and a schedule and things are going.
Mm.
It was a normal day. This is how it always happens with accidents. I had gone to see a friend of mine. We were going out to eat. On my return journey home, and again, this is how it always happens, I was about 5 or half a mile away from home on my motorcycle, of course. Someone made a U-turn without really being super cautious of oncoming traffic. About halfway through his U-turn, he must have seen me or realized that he was crossing the double yellow line, panicked, stopped his car, and essentially took up 2 lanes of escape,
Mm.
if you will.
Yeah.
So I was basically left with a choice. Either I can hit in between his driver's side door and his passenger door in the front and the back, or I can go to the ground and hope that nothing too crazy happens. Well, unfortunately, in going to the ground in an effort to, in my mind, I'm going to use my wheels to bounce off and not take too much impact. The angle that I hit his car spun me around, and obviously, because I was on a motorcycle, I was in a seated position. My
Yeah.
right leg made contact with his bumper, and the doctors considered it a grade 6 impact trauma. So basically, from my knee down to about mid shin, the bone had nowhere to go except into each other. So it required 2 major surgeries. I spent about a month with metal sticking out of my leg to keep my leg in place. And then after that was
Wow.
removed, and I had complete reconstruction of my right leg, which left me
Mm.
bedridden for about 3.5 months. Leading up to that accident, I had lived a life that was full and enjoyable, but I operated really out of a place of frustration and anger and fear, and that's what my life was for a lot of my early 20s and then leading into my 30s. Was I would find small happy moments, but most of the time I was upset about my position in life or my financial situation,
Yeah.
and instead of really owning that and taking that on myself to say, how can I be better about this? I used it as an opportunity to let everyone around me in my life know how unhappy I was. So, friends,
Mm.
my ex wife, coworkers. So, I was really operating out of a place of just frustration and anger. And I didn't see it. Obviously, when you're in it, you're not really taking, acknowledgement of behaving that way. After this accident and being stuck in bed and seeing the way that it was affecting my daughter and my friends and family, that was a, driving force behind, oh, wait, hold on. I've been living this way for a very long time, and up to this point, it has not really been that great for me. So,
Right.
so in that sort of transition period, if you will, I really had an opportunity to do a deep self-discovery. I'm in bed,
Mm.
nothing I can do. I can't get up and walk and go outside. So I spent a lot of that time in my head thinking back on, the last 10 years of my life. And for lack of a better word, accepting, hey, this is how I have been operating, and I can't continue to operate this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't get away from yourself when you're stuck in bed for that long,
Right,
right?
exactly.
And people come and visit for a while, but then they're like, "Okay, we have lives. We have
Right.
to keep moving and keep doing stuff."
I think that was the hardest
So,
part for me was understanding, obviously the world doesn't revolve around me, but there were times where I was in bed and I'm like, man, I'd really like to have a friend or have a visitor. And I'm like, they have jobs and they have lives that they need to go and do.
yeah, they can't sit here for 3.5 months while I'm
Right.
recovering. I think that is really hard, and I think that when you're recovering from something, I don't know, it is natural to be, like, very self-focused, and then you realize, "Wow, everyone else's life is going on, and I've had to press pause."
Mm.
Like, but it sounds like you took it as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It was this moment of, I have 3.5 months in bed, 3 months after, getting out of bed and rehab and things. How can
Yeah.
I use this time in a way that's meaningful beyond, you know, learning how to play guitar or, starting a new
Right.
thing? Like, how can I really use this time to create the next 10 years of my life that are meaningful and that will actually help propel me into sort of being the person that I always felt that I was supposed to be, but not really allowing myself to
Right.
get there?
Yeah, yeah. Did you have any understanding or acknowledgement of like neuroscience, mental health, any of this stuff before the accident?
So I wouldn't say struggled, but I have been aware of my own mental health and then the mental health of family members and friends
Yeah.
through loss and addiction, sort of how that was affecting them. It's
Yeah.
always been interesting to me. I've been in therapy and some friends of mine are therapists. So I've always been in that world. And I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, for a lot of my life, I felt called to be of service to others in a way that
Mhm.
I have had a lot of life experiences, but I never allowed myself to step into that role. I always felt
Yeah.
like, why me? There's tons of people out there that are helping other people. Why me? Only after this accident did I really say, you know what? I have felt called to do this for so long, and I'm now in a place in my life where I've had this incident happen, and I really, you know, during the accident, obviously everything happens very quickly, but for you, it slows down. I did have a moment sliding on the ground where I thought, oh my gosh, this might be it. I might not see my friends. I might not see my daughter. I might not make it through this. And in that
Yeah.
moment, I thought to myself, why did I never step into something that I felt so compelled to do? So after the accident,
Right.
it was a moment of, okay, I'm done wasting time. I'm done not stepping into who I feel I'm supposed to be. And that was really what the
Mhm.
deep dive into the neuroscience side of it was, is let me understand myself, what my brain is doing, what my body is doing during this time of recovery. And then through that, be able to help others that may be in the same position, that may feel like this is just what my life is. It's never going to get better. This is just how I operate.
Mhm.
I'm too old to make changes. And then through that deep dive into neuroscience, I was like, wow, hold on. There is something here beyond my own life experience. There is, you know, things that I have learned through studying neuroscience and having all of that free time to sit there and study neuroscience, that I think,
Yeah.
wow, this could be really beneficial for others who may feel stuck and then just feel like my brain is fighting me. My brain just works this way.
Mm.
And it was an opportunity
Yep.
to say, yeah, you may feel that your brain is fighting you, but the honest truth is it's doing what it was programmed to do, and it may be terrible right now, but it is doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Right. But there is hope, right? Like
Absolutely.
that's, I think, the missing piece for so many people. I hear all the time, I've been doing this for years. This is what I do. This is how I am. This is how my mom was. This is how my dad was. This is how my family is. And it's frustrating as a person who understands neuroscience, who understands mental health, who understands that you can reprogram. It in a way, it's like it is a choice, but it's a hard choice because the choice involves changing your brain and changing your pathways. And so you don't want to put blame on people and say, you have a choice because
Right.
it's more than mindset. It's more than just mindset. Like mindset work is fine, but for someone who has what you're describing, it takes more than just mindset work,
Absolutely.
unfortunately. It's very hard. You're right. Like those things, those protective mechanisms that were put in place very early on. I do something called internal family systems. You probably know what that is, parts work. And our parts are the programs, right?
Right.
The parts are the thing, the protectors. And man, like they are really good at their job. And if your protectors have decided that their job is to keep you small, keep you not taking any risk, like keeping you scared. They're so good at their job.
Absolutely. And it's
So,
tough to stand up to them. They've been a part of your life for so
mhm,
long. It's tough to say,
yeah,
hey, no
they
more.
make you feel safe too. Even when they're making you feel bad about yourself, they're doing that to keep you safe. And there are other parts of you that respond to that and feel
Absolutely.
safe. So it's really, really tough work. Not, I love the fact that you've written a book. I'm writing a book. I'm writing two books. I think books and podcasts and all of this information is so important. But at the end of the day, like it's really, really hard work. We don't want everyone to have to go through a terrible accident to get to the point of finding a different path forward. And so that's the work you're doing, the work I'm doing. I want to talk about clarity over solutions and what that means to you. And I want to talk about like what you think, I'm going to say self-help gets wrong for a lot of people who are in the situation you were in.
Sure. So for me, and I think this is a big part of the work that I'm doing now, or at least like what I'm trying to provide, is
Mhm.
clarity, not over solution, but versus. I mean, there are so many people online and on YouTube that are offering solution to these problems without necessarily explaining the root of them or where they come from in the body and
Mhm.
in the brain. So it's very
Yep.
easy to say to someone, just make the choice to be radically happy today. Just get up and be radically happy. Sure, that is an option for them, but if they're not understanding where that is coming from in their mind or in their body, it's really hard to shut that part down to say, okay, I'm happy today. I mean, you
Yep.
can, but, through longevity of it is really tough. So the
Yeah.
reason that I started posting the content that I am posting is to give people clarity on, hey, these are the chemicals or these are the mechanisms of your brain. These are the things that, have been built in you since you were a child and through all of your life experiences have gotten stronger and stronger. So, rather than say, these are the 10 steps that you can take to knock this off, in my mind, it felt more beneficial to say, hey, this is potentially the reason that this is happening to you. These are the mechanisms that your brain is using to do this for you or to you without, you being aware.
Yeah.
And then putting a name to it, giving some clarity on, this is what's happening. I think it has allowed people to, at least in the people that I've, worked with and spoken, to say, oh, okay, I understand now. it's not I'm just depressed or I'm just anxious. There's a back end to this that is
Mhm.
at sometimes beyond your control. It's working in the background in your subconscious. And
Yeah.
it, like I said before, it has been ingrained in you through all of these life experiences. Then,
Yeah.
once you have gained the clarity and you're able to name where it's coming from, then you can step in and have a better chance, I guess, in my opinion, of finding that solution. Because, there's
Right.
tons of mental health and mindset coaches that are pushing, solution, which is great. I mean, I think there are a lot of people who may be able to take that and internalize it and do the work with those solutions. But I think there is another group of people who need a better understanding of themselves and how these things are happening so they're able to say, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I can take the step.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, as a therapist and a coach, my role is first to educate. So, psychoeducation, neuroscience education. This is why you're feeling what you're feeling, or this is why, if you have a trauma bond, it's actually a chemical issue. It's
Right.
like an addiction. I know that I had something like a trauma bond, and when the therapist said it, and she said the word craving, I was like,
Mm.
yeah, like, okay, that's what it was. And she's like, okay, it's a craving. It's as strong as heroin. Like, so don't stop shaming yourself
Right.
for falling into the trap of going back or being unsure if you made the right decision in this relationship. Like, this is something you have to overcome, like someone would need to overcome an addiction because it is chemically the same thing. For me, that conversation happened many years ago, but when it happened, because I've always been a neuroscience junkie, I was like, oh. And the next time the craving came, I was like, oh, I'm not actually craving him. I don't actually want him. It's just the cycle
Right.
that has happened. And now I just need to break the cycle. And it was just that easy for me once I understood it. So awareness is everything.
Yeah.
And that is true for so many aspects of mental health. But you're right, like not everyone is out there educating. And then there's another piece of like, where did it come from? Which as a therapist, we do a lot of that work. Okay, so you have the trauma bond, this person, but what really early relationships and attachment issues and other young parts are contributing to why you're looking for this relationship? Because I don't want you to be in another one just like it.
Right.
So there are a lot of layers, but awareness, in my opinion, is probably the most important first step to
Absolutely.
getting people on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was interesting
So go ahead.
through doing this study and deep dive into these things, it actually gave me incredible insight. I have been through therapy and have worked with therapists, but doing this had given me insight into my own, like why I was searching certain relationships, why I felt certain way about certain people, and reaching that understanding, I started to feel like, oh my gosh, this is like groundbreaking for myself. And I think that's like what propelled it as I'm like, I need to help other people have these groundbreaking moments.
Right. Everyone should know this.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. I still feel that way. I have a guest episode on Tuesday on the podcast, but my Thursday episodes are typically like inspired by something I am going through. And so I have my own therapist. I'm like you. I like to go looking for the answer. So I love doing a deep dive. And whatever I'm going through, I've been doing a lot of work on abundance for myself lately and money blocks and things. And when I find something and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, this is it.
Right.
I'm going to turn on the camera and I'm going to do an episode about it and
Yep.
share it because I want to, oh my God, this is probably affecting lots of people.
Right.
So I love that. I think like the curiosity, it's not just the curiosity, it's the curiosity and the desire to inform, the desire to share with others, and we can improve our own lives. But wow, it'd be even better if I could help thousands of other people.
Absolutely.
So That's great. So with you, you also went through a relationship break around this same time. And so I'm sure you've done a lot of work around the neuroscience of heartbreak.
Mm.
And I think for me personally, I'm very embodied now. I wasn't before. I do a lot of meditation and a lot of mindfulness work. So I've come to be really hyper aware of when something's happening that feels emotionally triggering because I feel it in my body first. And it's funny, I never realized heartbreak was called heartbreak because it really does hurt in your chest.
Yeah.
Because I was not in my body until much later in life when I got my nervous system under control. So, why does it physically hurt? And why does the brain prefer like a familiar pain over what we're going to call like an unknown peace? Because we know for ourselves and others, like we typically repeat the same relationship over and over again until we do the work.
Yeah, so, in my deep dive and in my studies, and this was truly mind-blowing to me. This was something that I was unaware of, obviously, until I started doing this work, is the regions of your brain that light up or that, receive these signals. When you go through heartbreak, it's the same region of the brain that is triggered when you break a bone or have something actually physically painful. So when people are saying, my chest hurts, I can feel it in my body going through this breakup, yeah, you definitely can because your brain doesn't have the ability to differentiate this is an
Yeah.
emotional problem versus a physical problem. It feels it the same way that it would a broken bone, which is
Huh.
really like the basis for a lot of the work that I help people with is letting them know like you're going to heal this the same way that we would heal a broken bone. It's going to take time
Mm,
to sit and let your body heal this the way that it would heal an actual physical wound. Now, does everyone want to hear that? No, because no one wants to sit and be in pain.
mm-mm,
But it's the truth. And
right.
it sounds like a cliche, but at the end of the day, it's the reality of how your body, your nervous system, your mind is going to heal and process through this heartbreak. Your brain
Yeah.
is feeling it or is responding to it like you just broke a bone. And like you said, they call it heartbreak for a reason. It feels like something is broken inside of you when you go through it. When I found that through my research, it really opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, I can't believe, and obviously your brain is incredibly powerful, but knowing that if I was to break my arm or if I was to go through a heartbreak, that part of my brain is doing the same exact thing. There's really no
Right.
difference between
Yeah.
how it's receiving that signal,
Yeah.
which for a lot of people, because I see on threads and Instagram sometimes of people being like, why does my chest hurt? Why is it tight? I feel like I can't breathe. Everything hurts. It's because your brain is telling you something is broken. That's the reality of the situation. And like I said, it's unfortunate because everyone wants the secret sauce to how do I just get over this? How do I heal from this? And I always say, you're going to heal from this the same way you would a broken bone. Now, obviously, you can't put a
Yeah.
cast on your heart. You can't wrap it up and have it be reset. But the time that it takes to heal something broken in you is the time that it takes to heal your broken heart.
On your side?
I don't see anything here.
Sorry. Oh, I am so sorry. I was getting a call inside of, sorry,
It's okay.
Google inside of my, let me close that account. I don't know why my Gmail account got a phone call. That's weird. It's never happened to me before. I'm gonna close it. Sorry. I think it started right before you said that, so I can cut that part out.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I think most people don't realize those things. And I also think that we live in a state of certain body sensations all the time when we haven't done any work and we haven't processed and we're just used to it. I'm sure my chest had tightness and pain before. and I had a lot of migraines. I always had jaw tension. My scapula was always hurting. I had all of these aches and pains a long time, like my whole adult life. And they just came and went. And I thought it was just part of how my body worked. But in reality, when I started doing therapy and meditation and all of the other things that I do to help my nervous system stay regulated, a lot of those things went away, almost all of them. And even an autoimmune disease has been in remission for years
Wow.
because of work. So I think that probably I was having all of these symptoms of different emotional responses before, but I was in what we call survival mode. So my body was in a constant state of being on fire. And then once it calmed down, now I'm at a point where if something happens and I get chest pain, I'm immediately like, what's my body afraid of right now? What's going on? What am I feeling? Something feels off before I even feel whatever it is I'm about to feel.
Sure.
I think it's very hard for people who aren't in the place I'm in now to understand what I'm saying
Right.
because they haven't experienced it. But I do know, like, I was in a fog before. So all those things were happening, but I was almost like numbed by
Mm.
the intensity of everything.
Sure.
So when we talk about the brain kind of preferring familiar pain versus unknown peace, I had to get used to not being on fire all the time. Talk about like how that shows up in relationships. If you're used to being in what we'll call an unhealthy situation or an unhealthy relationship and you go out looking for a new healthy relationship, our brain does some tricky things to keep pointing us back towards what we're used to.
Right. I think, I hate to say it's interesting, but I think it really is interesting how, and this sort of goes back to our own survival instincts just as human beings, is doing something that's unfamiliar or something that your nervous system and your body are not used to is a risk. And at the end of the day, your brain is running that threat detection constantly. So something that doesn't
Yeah.
feel familiar or doesn't feel like something that you are able to handle or have handled in the past, your brain is going to try to have you avoid it. So when it comes to toxic relationships or these push pull dynamics in relationships, your brain has grown accustomed to that sort of reward system of
Yeah.
things are really bad. Oh my gosh, we fixed it. We're back to normal. Things are really bad. Oh my gosh, we fixed it again. There's that sort of like intermittent gratification or reward system that happens where that sort of becomes your norm and that's what your brain starts to look for or how it wants to operate in these
Yeah.
relationships. That's why a lot of times in what I've seen, when people finally do find themselves in a healthy relationship, there's almost a self sabotage that happens because it feels so unnatural to someone who has grown accustomed to push pull or a certain level of excitement. I hate to use that word, but in the
Yeah.
relationship of tensions are really high and now we found common ground, tensions are really high, now we found common ground again. Your body starts, for lack of a better word, and what we were saying earlier, become addicted, not to the fight, but to the relief after the fight.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes. I think that's what people get confused about. That's a really good point. You're not craving the argument or the meanness or the fight, whatever. You're craving the dopamine hit you get when everything is better.
that's exactly it. And I think that's probably why a lot of people find themselves repeating these patterns in relationships is, again, to the point that we were making earlier, there's almost a craving for that relief. So when you're in a
Yep.
relationship that is not necessarily providing those highs and lows and, the spike in cortisol versus the dopamine that comes with the relief of, okay, it's over, you're not really understanding, how do I operate in this place? I'm not receiving the
Yeah.
highs and lows that I'm used to or that I'm wanting. And typically,
Yeah.
people will find themselves feeling like, is this boring? is this relationship not what
Right.
I'm looking for?
It's boring.
Right.
Yep.
But really what it
Yeah,
is
it's not exciting, there's no thrill.
right, exactly.
There's no chemistry.
Right. I think that's the really tricky part is people equating those highs and lows to chemistry. Wow, we're really in love. We fight so passionately for each
Mhm.
other and we always find a way
Yeah.
to make up for it. Is that chemistry or is that unfortunately a really toxic behavior that you have found yourself slipping into because it feels passion driven or it feels like there's our connection. We care about each other so much, we're always able to make it better.
Another thing that I think is worth noting is that in the beginning of relationships where there are a lot of highs and really bad lows, over time, the highs don't even have to be that high to give you the dopamine. So, meaning when you're with someone maybe who does a lot of love bombing. So they do something that they shouldn't do or something that hurts you, and that's the low. And then they come back in the beginning with roses or a trip or grandiose statements, and they're so loving and kind, and that gives you the hit.
Mhm.
It's relief. It's a relief because you were afraid of if you are anxious or anything like that, then you're afraid they're going to abandon you. And in the beginning, the high is high, but over time, anything where they're just nice to you, they're just normal, gives you the dopamine hit because now you've been trained. Anything that's not mean, if you're using like a mean nice,
Sure.
anything that's not mean will give you that chemical hit. It doesn't even have to be anything extravagant or really anything at all, just not mean.
Mhm.
And so over time, it really can become like these super low lows with abuse or toxic behavior, infidelity, all these things that could be happening. And in response, there's just them not being mean or not doing one of those things is enough to give you a dopamine hit, which causes a lot of these relationships to go on so long because now you're addicted to it. Yeah.
I think
So what
that
does it look like? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
sorry. I was just going to say I think that you using the word trained is so powerful because that's the reality of the situation. You are essentially being trained to
Mhm.
expect the lows. So when you don't have them, it's, oh, this is great. There's no low right now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And in reality, you deserve so much better.
Sure.
Like, yeah. And but that's not something you're even striving for at this point.
Okay.
When people start doing the work and these old versions of yourself no longer fit into the relationship or even your body or your plan in life, where does the new version come from and how does it keep going when it's used to all this other stuff?
Yeah, I think for me, that new version was always in waiting. That's how I to people that I'm working with is that person was always there waiting to come out of you. And it's those moments where you're sitting alone and you're thinking to yourself, I know that there's better out there. I know that I can be better. I know that I can do more. That's that new you trying to break through and say, yes, you can be more, you can do better, you can grow, you can learn. I think it comes, and again, this is something that happens is you have to mourn the loss of
Mhm.
the person that you were because you've maybe grown up with this person and you've gotten used to the way that you operate, your behaviors, your hobbies, the things that maybe keep you stuck. You've become so comfortable with that stepping into this new reality or stepping into this new person feels so scary because you start to say to yourself, can I not do this thing? Can I not talk to this person or can I not behave this way? Because, talking about the unfamiliar versus the familiar, you've become so used to it that doing anything beyond that almost feels like an insurmountable task. And I think that's a big struggle, at least something that I faced is in my recognition of I can no longer be this person. Something has to change. You start to almost feel, okay, here's the 100 steps that I need to take to get to this new person. And it becomes overwhelming, and you start to feel like there's no way I can do all of these things to be this new person. When you break it down, you start to understand you can, and this is something big that I work on, is you can take very small wins every day and have them lead you to this finish line, if you will, even though there's no real finish line, but
Yeah,
the
there's no
end,
it's never finished.
yeah, the end sort of goal of where you're hoping to get. For me, it, again, I think it always lived somewhere in me, and there was
Mhm.
such a block put up by imposter syndrome or fear of really being perceived for trying, or the embarrassment that may come from taking a risk to be the person that I want to be and having people around me maybe see me fail and then shrinking back into myself and saying, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew that wasn't going to work. And now I'm back in that cycle. I think it takes
Yep.
real courage to allow yourself to open the door for this person that probably for years has been begging to be let out so you can step into your
Yes.
truth and into yourself. It's a courageous thing that needs to happen. But I think even when you crack that door open and you just let that person take one step out, it gives you this feeling of, oh, wait, I think I might be able to do this. I think that it really is time to take these steps and to become this person. I think the mistake that people make, and I hate speaking for others, so the mistake that I made, like I said, is thinking that I needed to do it all at once or it wasn't worth it
Right.
or it wasn't going to work.
Yep.
These
Yep.
small wins that you're starting to say, I used to sit on the couch all day and just watch Netflix and wonder why my life wasn't what I wanted it to be. This past week, I've watched Netflix for 30 minutes a day instead of 6 hours. Okay, I'm seeing results. I'm feeling more motivated. I've done more work in my business, or I've been able to connect deeper with friends because I'm not locked into the TV. Or if people have health
Yeah.
goals, I never take walks. I give myself the excuse of, oh, it's too hot, or my legs hurt, or I'm too busy. And then you start taking 10, 15, 20-minute walks. You start stacking that up and realizing, number one, I kind of enjoy walking. It's nice outside. I like the sunshine. And also,
Yep.
you're building these wins of, I can get out and walk. I can feel good
Right.
about taking these steps and being this new person. That compounds over time until I think one day you wake up and you realize, oh my gosh, that old me could never even compete with the me that I am now through taking these small actions every single day.
It doesn't all have to happen at once. You're so right, and it's so important. I think that a few things are important to point out that you were highlight, like what you were saying when you said, like, you're never done with the work. For some people, and I hear this so much and it bothers me, I think. It triggers something
Right?
in me, but it also makes me sad because I think it's why people give up sometimes. I hear people say, "You're not healed," or "They're not healed."
Hmm.
We're never gonna be 100% healed, right? We're here to do a lot of work, and there are a lot of layers. And yes, when we peel back one layer and we overcome something, or we learn to live with something, or we grieve so we can move on, whatever it is, there is something else underneath that to work on. It's never done.
Right.
But I don't want people to hear that and be discouraged. I would love it if you would explain, because I'm sure that you have experienced this. Why is it worth it? Because for men, especially that I work with, I hear a lot of frustration when they do overcome something, or let's say we get a part settled down in their system, and then the next week they come back and they're like, well, now this happened. I thought I was done. I thought I was over this. I thought I was better. I thought I was healed. How can people better understand and learn to live with like this? Like, it's a process and it's ongoing. But I think for me, I'm going to give my word for it. I think because I live in gratitude now, immense gratitude, that even if something terrible happens or I face a new challenge or an old challenge comes back today, I'm so grateful that my life is so much better than when I was living in survival mode.
Or
What's your perspective on this? That's my perspective. Like it's the gratitude that makes it all worth it and helps me stay positive. What is it for you?
I think for me, it's an acknowledgement of where I am now versus where I was. I think it's really easy, like you were saying, for people to say, I thought I was healed. I thought I was over this. Like you said, it's a constant battle, it's a constant journey. For me, when I'm able to take a moment and say, okay, this is a challenge that I have faced before. I thought I was over it, but it's still triggering something in me. But the old me would have spiraled or gone running and not really been willing to face it or attempt to face it or attempt to maybe understand what the challenge is. When I have those moments, it for me it's really beneficial to sit and say, yes, this is a challenge. Yes, it's still triggering me. I thought that I was in a place where maybe I was past it. Number one, clearly I'm not past it, so there's still work to do. But also, the old me would have handled this entirely differently. So there is healing and growth that has happened. For me, I
Mm.
really attach my mind to that to say, again, obviously there's no finish line, but to say, okay, you have, I'm so sorry, you have taken these steps to get past a point of spiral or get past the point of being buried by this emotion. Now you're at a place where you're willing to stand up to it, to face it head on. So the acknowledgement of even small bits of growth or small bits of healing has helped me personally continue that journey. Because I think if I would not acknowledge it and just sit in the place of why is this still triggering me? Why is this still making me
Mhm.
feel this way? Then you get into that thinking of I must not be healed. The work that I'm doing
Right.
must not be worth it because I'm still being triggered. There's still layers underneath of this that are still hurting me. And then you're stuck in that place of I've done all this work for nothing. I'm still being upset by
Yeah.
this or it's still affecting me in this way. For me, when I can take a second to say, I am being affected by it, but not in the same way that I would have been 6 months ago, a year ago. It's the acknowledgement of those little steps, the little bits of growth that help keep me on the journey of, okay, maybe this is 5 steps away from where I was. And maybe in 6 months now I'll be 10 steps away from where I was. But if I continue to take
Right.
these steps and do this work, there's going to be a time where I feel, okay, maybe it triggers me a little bit, but I'm okay. I'm fine. I can keep
Yep.
moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all so good. And I think we live in this time of like instant gratification. If we need something, we just get on our phone and Amazon delivers it.
Right.
So it's really hard to not get fixed right away. If you have pain, you pop a pill or you go to the doctor and they make it feel better. This kind of work isn't like that. And it's all layered on top of each other and it does come back, especially when we talk about grief. And I think I'm going to probe a little bit more about men in particular since you're my first male
Right.
guest. I just did a podcast episode a few weeks ago, and I was specifically, when I started doing the research for the episode, targeting anger in men who are going through divorce. That was the purpose of doing the research. But once I got in and started doing that work, I started realizing, oh, because I already knew men were really only giving themselves permission to feel certain emotions. I knew that, but I wasn't thinking about it in terms of a lot of my other clients who are struggling, and they're specifically struggling, they say, with anger. But in that research, I found that many times the real emotions that they're feeling underneath the anger are things like hopelessness, loneliness, sadness, which are emotions that, and fear. Fear was the big one, like fear that I'll never have another connection. So I realized quickly, okay, this is not just related to divorce. This spans a lot of issues for men. And the anger is one of the only emotions that young boys and young men are taught it's okay to feel. So the anger is actually masking something else underneath. So my question is, what do you think about that idea? And what kind of pain do you think men are giving themselves permission to feel versus the pain that they need permission to feel?
Wow, that's a good one. That is definitely a good one. I think for me personally, as I mentioned in the beginning of this, for a lot of my life was operating out of this place of frustration or anger. And when I really, to what you just said, when I really looked at it, it came down to I'm unhappy with how I'm showing up in relationships, but also at my job, financially, feeling like I should be or could be doing so much more in these areas of my life. And instead of being honest with myself and saying, I feel hopeless at this dead end job, or I'm afraid that my partner is not going to see maybe the value that I'm attempting to bring if I'm not bringing it in a way that she's able to receive it. Sadness in like, how did I, number one, become this person? But also, how
Mm.
do I not be this person anymore? For me,
Yeah.
there was a lot of anger in I want to be more. I know I can be
Yeah.
more, but life circumstances and the place that I'm in now or makes it feel like I can't get past this. Whether it's I'm at a job just to pay the bills and I'm not able to show up fully at home, or I'm at a job, I'm showing up fully at home and I'm not showing up for myself in ways that maybe I need to be showing up for myself. All of that sort of gets internalized and becomes this frustration of why is my life not working the way I planned it to? And I think that's a big
Right.
thing for me specifically is setting expectations of if I do A, B, C, the outcome should be this. If I do one, two, three correctly, the outcome should be this. Sort of fantasizing or romanticizing. If I take these steps, this is the way that life should go. And then when life doesn't go that way, it created in me this feeling of, but I've done everything right, or I thought I was doing everything right, and now nothing is going the way that I anticipated it would, or nothing is going the way that I thought that it would turn out. And then instead of being sad, which I think is the reality of at least setting up expectations, is not
Mhm.
getting to that goal line of those expectations.
Right.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like, am I worthless? Have I not done things that needed to be done to get me to this place? And like you
Right.
said, typically growing up, I think the world is a little bit better about it now. I was a 90s kid who grew up with a single mom, but my dad was a blue collar dad. So very much like men don't cry. You get up,
Yep.
you go to work, you come home, you pay the bills, and that's how you handle being a man. Obviously, I
Yep.
think now, we're starting to get into a place of parenting where we're a little bit more emotionally in tune with our kids and ourselves. But for me,
Mhm.
there were moments where I could feel very deeply with the safety of my mom. But that was very
Yeah.
quickly shut down in being reminded, because people used to always say this to me, and I think it was probably so detrimental, but you're the man of the house. Growing up with a single mom,
Yeah.
people always used to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
okay, it's your job to take care of your mom. You're the man of the house now. So even being 8, 9, 10 years
So
old,
detrimental.
I would take
Yep.
on these emotions of okay, don't cry. Don't let your mom see you cry, because if she sees you cry, it's going to make her sad, and she has enough to worry about, so you don't be sad. So these emotions then turned into anger, because as I get older, I started to feel like, why can't I be sad? I need to be sad. And then it makes me angry. And then when I'm getting angry, then that became my baseline. You're a man who's angry at life because life has been unfair to those that you love. And that was the baseline of operation. And I think that may, I hate to speak for men everywhere, but I think a large part of men operate from that baseline of, I'm angry at life because life has been unfair, either to me or the people I care about. And as a man, I should be able to do something about it, but I can't. And I think that leaves us feeling powerless. And in a society
Yeah.
that teaches men to be powerful, to take control, be a leader, in the moments that you feel like you're not doing those things, that perpetuates that anger, sadness, hopelessness, and frustration of, am I missing the mark of being a man? And then in turn you get harder about it. You become a man who, at least for me, I created this character of what a man is. And the only way
Mhm.
that I could operate as a man was to be this character. And it took a lot of work for me to understand that I'm not a character. I'm not a person in a movie, and this isn't how I have to operate to be a man in society, especially nowadays. But that took a lot to understand, like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be angry and powerful all the time. I'm allowed to be soft and vulnerable.
And you need to be in order to thrive. What did that look like? What did the character look like for you?
Oh boy. So, I mean, you can see, maybe not. I'm pretty heavily tattooed. I work in, a blue collar career. I drive a big truck, I ride motorcycles, listen to country music, enjoy having beers with the boys. So it's like really this stereotypical architect of what a man is. But
Yeah.
emotionally, I closed myself off to deep connection with people, whether
Mm,
that be romantic relationships, friendships, coworkers. I never allowed myself to say or to be soft in that way where bonds are formed in a deep and meaningful way. Because to me, like I said before, a man wakes up, this is how I used to feel. A man wakes up, goes to work, says, hey, what's up to your friends, nothing beyond that. Hey, hope you're doing good. Hope the family's get into the truck, drive home, make sure the bills are paid, make sure there's food on the table. But beyond that, there was no deep and meaningful connection, romantically and platonically, because I was so worried about being tough and being powerful and taking charge. And I think I made the mistake of taking charge does not mean leading in a meaningful way. Because
right.
I can make all the decisions, I can pay all the bills, I can say, this is what's for dinner, this weekend we're going here. But if there's no connection behind it, if there's no vulnerability behind that or want to be a unit, I'm just a
Yeah.
boss. I'm just the boss. I'm just making
Right.
rules that everyone has to follow because that means that I'm in charge. And I think that's, for me personally, where I have gone wrong in a lot of my romantic relationships is I'm not, or I wasn't leading. I was just the manager, if you will. I was just the boss making rules.
Right. What's the difference between leading and managing?
I think leading, for me personally, comes with connectivity and vulnerability and moments of understanding your partner's needs on the other side of that leadership. So there are moments,
And safety.
exactly, and a true, this is such like a buzzword now, but like holding space for that person.
Mhm.
Because it's really easy
Yeah.
to come home, say this and that. Your partner says, hey, I need this from you, and half heartedly giving it to them just to keep the peace. as opposed
Yep.
to truly and meaningfully holding this place of understanding and knowing them on a deeper level to understand, do you need me to be just your ear and shoulder right now? Do you need
Mhm.
solution? Or do you just need to
Yeah.
vent it out? I think that's a
Right.
really tough area for a lot of men because we are so solution driven to understand
Mhm.
that I think right now I probably just need to listen.
Yep.
I don't think I
Yeah.
need to say, well, let's fix it. This is how we can fix it. Let's go and make it
Right.
better. I think that it, for me personally, and for probably a lot of men that I know in my life, not everything needs solution. Not everything needs to be fixed. That was a
Right.
really tough
And
lesson
most
for me.
women don't want you to fix. Most of us don't, but
Right.
they do appreciate if you ask.
Sure.
What do you want?
Mhm.
And I think that's the key, and that feeling of safety. It's safe, and you're going to hold space for me in a safe way, whatever that is. But I also think that where a lot of men could greatly improve, especially that scenario you just described, is setting their own boundary and knowing what they need and taking the space for themselves first, but expressing it. We get we get lost in relationships when we don't say what we need. So if you're this safe man, you've got to take care of yourself, just like women have to take care of themselves first. But you have to tell somebody what you're doing and why, so it doesn't feel like rejection or abandonment or not caring. It's, hey, I'm going to go sit in the backyard for a minute and get some sun. I need to unwind. I can't wait to hear about your day, but I need to do this first. Okay. Most women would be like, okay, that's
Yeah.
great. I can't wait to come back inside. Go take care of yourself so you can show up for me and hold space for me. That's what I need.
Yeah, absolutely.
But instead, it's the walking in and the I can't take it. I don't want to hear about your day, half-heartedly listening, just not showing up and making that safe container for connection. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I know I myself was definitely guilty of that through most of my life. In
yeah,
showing up, coming home from work, frustrated, tired from the day, and instead of sort of,
depleted. Yeah,
like you're saying, just being transparent and saying, hey, I've had a really tough day. I just need 5 minutes to unwind. I would jump into, again, being the leader, provider, but not in a meaningful way. Just, I've had a rough
yeah,
day. Let me go into the kitchen and start making dinner. And then through that, resentment would build of I never have
yep,
space or time for myself. But the reality was I wasn't voicing that. I was letting my frustration or using my frustration as a means of communication so that my partners would know, oh, he must have had a long day. Let me give him a break.
right,
But then that
right,
on both sides creates this resentment of he comes home angry every day. She never understands why I'm so angry. And there was no clear communication of, hey, I just need 5 minutes. Like you said, I cannot wait to hear about your day. I just need to unwind for a second, and then I'm going to come back in and be the best me that I can be for you. I was definitely guilty of not giving myself that space to regulate.
yeah,
And then in turn,
yep,
now the whole house is dysregulated. Now no one knows
right.
where to step and what to do.
Everyone's on eggshells and yeah, yeah. Well, first, someone who's listening, tell us about like the way that you work with people now, what you're offering people online
Sure.
and if anything in person, and yeah, how you are making a difference in the people's lives that you're touching right now.
Yeah, so I every day, either once or 3 times a day, I'll post a neuroscience backed video essentially explaining for me things that either I have gone through or that I have seen friends go through based around heartbreak, divorce, loss, whether that's death in the family or loss of a friendship, and the grief that
Mhm.
comes with that. And I have found that more often than not, people didn't really understand how that was affecting their everyday life. And through posting
Yeah.
this content and I do one on one coaching, there's a Calendly link in my bio. But like I said in the beginning, giving a name or giving clarity to what's happening, I think has helped people not feel like there's something wrong with them. It has started
Yeah.
to illuminate that this is a natural function. I was working with someone who, was unfortunately going through a separation later in life, and they were unsure of why they kept feeling stuck or like wanting to reach out to this person after they had been in no contact for so long. And like we were saying earlier, explaining, hey, you're in chemical withdrawal. You have become addicted to this. And especially, I think, for a lot of people, they become addicted to the narrative of the solution, the fix. You start to
Yeah.
dream about, if I say this thing, they're going to come back. If I act this way, they're going to come back.
Yep.
That in itself, that loop becomes addictive because you get
Yep.
small hits of dopamine from the imagined fix.
Right. The rumination, all
Exactly.
of that.
Yeah, that yearning, which is such a like a buzzword online right now. Bring back yearning, but it's, I mean, everyone is yearning for something. But
Something.
right. So through my coaching, that's really where I like to start is, what are you going through? What are the emotions that you continue to find yourself having time after time? Even if you've started to acknowledge, hey, this is why I'm having this emotion, but you're having it over and over. Let's figure out why that's happening. And then
Mhm.
we're going to start to take real life steps, not tricks, not get out of jail free cards from this, real
Right.
actionable steps to rewiring not only your brain, because I think neuroplasticity is absolutely incredible, but also
Yeah.
rewiring or retraining your nervous system around safety, connection, vulnerability, and also rejection. A lot of people deal with rejection sensitivity dysphoria where they're unwilling to take the step to maybe put themselves out there for a new relationship or a new friendship with the fear of, if they say they don't like me, or if they say we're just not connecting, it's going to be
Right.
more painful than my heartbreak because it has just proved everything that my ex-partner said about me.
Yep.
So I think one of my favorite things about the coaching is seeing someone go from point A to actionable step. Now we're at G, H, and they are starting to get a little glimmer back. There's a little bit of hope that's coming back into their life, and they're,
Right.
hey, I went with my friends and I actually had a good laugh. It's, tell that to your old self because
Great.
you would have never believed it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
so I have the book that I'm working on. I have a 30-day nervous system reset guide. It's, daily prompts. It's neuroscience facts that you can read that go along with the prompts. But it's also a place where you can jot down a mini journal of where you're at
Yep.
on that day. So from day 1 to day 30, when I was writing this, my hope was that when you get to day 30, you do your journal entry, you can look back at day 1 and say, oh my gosh, I have maybe obviously not totally reset my nervous system, but I'm now not in a state of constant fight, constant
Yep.
survival. I have these small
Yeah.
moments of hope
Mm.
that I'm able to acknowledge and really enjoy these moments of hope, not just forced, oh, today was a good day. No, really enjoying,
Yeah.
wow, my lunch today was great. I had a great drive home. I'm so looking forward to going and watching my favorite show and having a great night's sleep, as opposed to, my drive home was dragging. All I could do was think. Now I'm at home in the quiet and all I can do is think. And now I have to go to bed and all I
Yeah.
can do is think.
Yeah.
So that's really the big part of everything that I'm doing. Really, it started out in a selfish way for me to, on a daily basis, put these videos out. So when I was having moments, I could look back and say, okay, Carl,
Yeah.
this is where we're at today.
It's all good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So that's great.
yeah, then through that, obviously stepped into what I was saying earlier, where I always felt called to be of service to people. I realized, wait, this is more beneficial for me in terms of understanding myself and helping people understand themselves, which, obviously when you go through a traumatic life event or a loss, you're in this place of wanting to reinvent yourself. For me, I don't necessarily think it was
Mhm.
a reinvention. It was more stepping into purpose that I was always avoiding,
Yeah.
that I never really wanted to
Yeah.
step into. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, daily
It's
content.
also it's a very common challenge I think many people have and very relatable. So
Yeah,
I commend you for all the work and all the research, and it's really brave to step in. It's brave to put it out there publicly, and every step, like you said, is a step in the right direction and a step forward, and you're teaching your nervous system that it's safe to take each step.
absolutely.
Even if it feels small, you're telling your body, look, I did this. It felt a little scary, but I did it and I'm okay. I'm safe.
Yeah.
Well, such great work. And yeah, I'm going to have all of your contact information, your Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of it in the show notes
Okay.
on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And you'll be in my Instagram as well when
Nice.
we feature the episode. So people can find you in all of those places. Thank you so much. This was wonderful and just inspiring. I think that there are a lot of people out there like you, where you were before, who have potential to step into their purpose and have a huge impact on others. And we're all just waiting for those people to have the courage
Right.
and to step into those roles so you be out there inspiring all of those people
Right.
to take the first step. So I appreciate you very much.
Thank you
This is
so
great.
much. It's an honor to be the first man on the podcast, so that's
Yes.
incredible. So thank you for that.
Great. Well, I wish you all the best of luck, and you have to let me know when your book is out there and published so that I can put it out on all of our social media too. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Collin. For anybody who's listening, check out the show notes for all of Collin's contact information. Thank you for listening in this week, and we'll see you or talk to you next week.